I'm Professor Walter Williams, John M. Olin Distinguished Professor of Economics at George Mason University. While teaching economics to our students, undergraduates and graduate students, I am also involved in trying to do research on the growth of government and the kind of threat that it poses for our individual freedom.
Walter, how do you balance this what seems to be two activities, the research activity and the teaching activity?
Well, it's not easy. I have to allocate my time efficiently. The research activities occur mostly in the mornings from 4 o'clock until around 10 o'clock. And then I take roughly about an hour or two to write a syndicated column that is published nationally across our country. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, I allocate that time to teaching activities.
You said 4 a.m.?
Yes.
You take naps, or is...
Well, once in a while I'm afforded the luxury of taking a nap, say around 1 o'clock for an hour, and that rejuvenates me, and then I get up and I get my nose back to the grindstone.
Insight Magazine selected you as one of the 10 best college teachers in the United States. Why do you feel you're successful in the classroom?
Well, first of all, I'm very flattered by Insight, and I'm not quite sure how they reached that conclusion, but I will accept their flattering article. I think that the major contribution that I have to teaching, and I consider my teaching not only in the classroom, but to Americans in general through my syndicated column, and then once in a while I have the opportunity to teach the Congress of the United States. And I think that my forte in teaching is to be able to explain things to people who have never taken a course in economics so that they understand it. There are many, many complex things in economics, but a professor's job is to make those things comprehensible to the average individual.
And are you considered an easy teacher, a tough teacher?
Well, I rank fairly high. I rank fairly high in the in student rankings. I think that I'm normally considered a tough but fair teacher. After all, I think that we should demand things of our young people because they're not really being challenged enough in our educational system.
Obviously, you have an impact. Teachers can play a really significant role in students' lives. Did you have any teachers in high school or college that particularly impressed you?
Well, yes. I believe that there's one teacher that might have made a very, very important difference in my life. It was Dr. Rosenberg at Benjamin Franklin High School in North Philadelphia, where I attended during 1950 to 1954. And one morning, he laid me out pretty good. I had answered a question, and I made a comment underneath my breath loud enough for him to hear it, and he began to read me the Riot Act, saying in very, very poetic ways that Williams, teaching you this material is like casting pearl into the swine. And he made some other disparaging comments, and that was my first real challenge in high school. And after he did what he insulted me, what I considered insulted me, that gave me incentive to pull myself up in the eyes of my teachers. Also, at UCLA, I encountered some very, very dedicated men like Professor Armin Alshin, Professor Axel Laniford, and Professor William Allen. And those men, they saw my academic deficiencies, and they challenged and they gave of their own personal time to help me lift myself above those academic deficiencies.
Were you at any point in your college career or high school career, were you considered a top student?
I doubt it. It seemed to me that being a student or becoming a scholar was always a struggle. That is, I had to put in a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort, and I had to do things many, many times over and over again. Now, I believe that characterizes most of us who become scholars or academicians. We have to put in a whole lot of time. We have to put in a whole lot of time just to reach mediocrity, and if you're going to go beyond that, it means even more time and effort.
You went from Philadelphia to California, high school to college. What led to that move? Was there any person or incident that took you across the country?
Well, I guess the major draw was that I found that I could go to school relatively cheap, cheaply in California as compared to Philadelphia. And then I saw Philadelphia as a losing proposition. I had a lot of aspirations, but they just could not be fulfilled. And so when I got out of the Army in 1961, my wife and I, we managed to save $700, and we just hitched up a U-Haul trailer to my 1951 Mercury, and we drove to California, never looking back, and actually never really anticipating coming back to Philadelphia. And I started school in California. My wife got a job, and I went to school continuously for 10 and a half years. But ultimately, I did come back to Philadelphia, and I took a job at Temple University, and I live in the Philadelphia area now.
In between high school and college, did you, in addition to the armed forces, did you have any jobs?
Yes, I did. I had many jobs. I worked as a shipper for a textile wholesaler. One job, which is very colorful, I was a taxi cab driver in Philadelphia from 1957 until 1959, and then for 6 months after I left the Army. And being a taxi driver was a fairly good education, as well as a very, very good income earning experience or opportunity.
Was there a particular person who persuaded you to study economics?
Well, yes, there was, and that person was not alive. It was W.E.B. Du Bois. I was a sociology major during my freshman and sophomore years in college at California State University, and over the summer I read W.E.B. Du Bois' Black Reconstruction, and somewhere in there he says that blacks are never going to significantly move up the economic ladder until they learn how to do something with the economic system. And I'm merely paraphrasing what he said, but that caused some thoughts in my mind, and when school opened up that September, I changed my major to economics, which turned out to be quite a struggle because economics is far more demanding than sociology. One had to learn how to engage in deductive logic. One had to learn some statistics and math and straight thinking, which is not necessarily a great demand in sociology.